Welcome to Living Chassidus. Together, let's live the Chassidus we learn.
Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Chassidus in the Morning, 15 minutes to hopefully change our lives. This shir is sponsored. Today's class is sponsored by Devorah Leah Moskivov and family, lilui nishmas, her mother, Alisa Bina, Leib. The yahrtzeit was nissan. We have an Alisa and a shama. May we be reunited with our loved ones, with Mashiach right now, and in honor by an anonymous, in honor for refuah shleima, for Naftali ben Bluma, that they should have a speedy recovery and everything they need. They should have only good things to share. Okay. Now we're getting into a little bit of the meat of the maimah. Essentially, what we're going to discuss today, and like we were saying yesterday, essentially a lot of life is about a perspective, and obviously it's all about a perspective. And what we're learning in this maimah is teach us a perspective and how to look at life and people around us, and how we interact with that, and how we take that information. Now we're going to bring from the Arizal. So yesterday we were talking about the Sefer mitzvahs that bring from the Chinuch. Sefer Chinuch, he brings down the mitzvahs of Avos Yisrael and bring down the famous story of the Gemara that that Hillel Zakin said, whatever you don't like to be done to yourself, that Allah Sunday that for you is hated, to your friend shouldn't do. And this is the whole Torah, and the rest is just a pirush on this. So we ask the question, what do you mean? How can you say this? First of all, okay, I can understand you're talking about mitzvahs between us and another person. Obviously, Yisrael, with obviously Yisrael, like explained, with obviously Yisrael, I'll help you do all these mitzvahs. I can also understand, but how can it be between us and Hashem? Like how does that connect? I've obviously Yisrael, but what about Hashem? What's it going to do with Hashem? And do mitzvahs, say Shabbos, keeping Shabbos, it's just something for Hashem. How obviously Yisrael help keeping Shabbos? And like even more, like we said, if what can you really give to the Vishnu? What can you really give God? He's so righteous, everything. But and even more so when it comes to talking about obviously so that it's just between two people or people amongst themselves. How can you say that that affects the mitzvahs between us and God? That's what we need to understand. So we're going to bring them from Arizal. Just a quick story that when I was a kid in school, I was in public school. And I knew this concept. I don't know what it was, but I was connected to this a little bit. And we had to write an essay or something. So I wrote about this concept. Whatever is hated to your friend, don't do. So one of the teachers, he was a funny guy a little bit. And he said to me, see, he saw it. I don't know how he saw it, but it was like he was a woodwork teacher or something. And he said to me, does that mean that if you like someone, I can't remember what he said, someone like doing something to you, that means you can do it to someone else? Like he switched into the positive. Meaning if you like it when someone, rubs your back, does that mean you should go around rubbing everyone's back? So he asked you that. I don't know what his intention was many years ago, but it made me think, like, that's a good question. And I thought I have to like this. The reason why he says it in the negative is because, but seemingly the language he uses, Hillel, he goes, whatever you don't like, don't do it to others. Why not say it in the positive? Whatever you like, do to others. And this is what the teacher was sort of saying. But I think sort of that was, it's not so I learned it then. It's not that whatever you like, do to someone else. What if they don't like it? So that's why it's more the negative. Whatever they don't like, don't do. So I thought it's not a free reign to go do things just because you want to do it, but it's about the person. Some interesting story. Okay, in this book, in this Sefer, page 16, Ois Aleph. Behold, the time mitzvahs that Rizal brings down. The Rizal is Sefer Kabbalah, is Kabbalist in the 1500s. So the Rizal writes it's brought down in the time of mitzvahs, Parsha Kedeshim, in his name, Kasav Arizal V'zel Shein. It says this is his language. This is what he writes. He says, "Call Yisrael Soid guf echad. Shon nishmas adam rishon. We're all one body, like a general body comprising of one complete body of the neshama of adam rishon. As it's known by us. Like it says also in Sefer Gigul in Parak Aleph base. And this is a very fundamental point that we're bringing out. This Maimon really stresses. Every single yid is one limb. We're all one limb of this huge body. So we're not, this is like the axiom, how to look at it. We're not separate beings. We're essentially one. You know, it's like they say about with the chuppah, when you get married, when you come into the chuppah, they all say two halves of one soul. So essentially, we are not halves. We are like all comprised all together of one. Chana's coming to join us in the show. So v'chol echad misol hu ever prati, every single yid is one limb. Umizehu ha'arvus, and this is the mutual responsibility. Sha'adam ari b'shvil chaveirei im yachte. That if a person sins, one Jew is accountable to the other. Meaning, and he explains, that's why that Arizal would say vidui. So Arizal would be confessing for sins. Now, of course, the question is, Arizal didn't do anything, he sins. What is he confessing about? So the explanation that we're giving here is was Arizal is connected, all the Yidden are connected. And therefore, when even though, let's say, I didn't do anything wrong, but there's a Yid out there that didn't do all the mitzvahs meant to do, so that affects me because we're all connected. And this is the action that we're using here. It's a beautiful way of understanding everything. You look at it through this perspective. When you look at another Yid, you have to look at them not as someone else, someone separate, but as part of me. We're all part of the same body. And therefore, when there's something wrong with that Yid, it means there's something wrong with me. And of course the opposite. If something wrong with me, it's also something lacking within them. It says in Shulchan Aruch, I was learning this months ago, and it really blew me away. It says, Alter brings down in regards to Hilchos Talis, that let's say a person puts on a talis, and they'll fulfill the mitzvah of talis. They're wearing a talis, let's say, and someone else comes into shul, and that person doesn't know how to read Hebrew and say the brachos. So the Alter Rebbe says, even though you fulfilled your obligation of putting on a talis, so you don't have obligation to say the bracha, you can make the bracha for that person that can't make the bracha. And he explains, and he says, why? Because like this, we're saying here, call Yisrael a ravens of them. We're all mutually responsible for each other. So he says, so therefore, you have the obligation to make the bracha. You haven't fulfilled your obligation making a bracha on the talis. Even though you have already, being that your friend, someone else that doesn't know how to make the bracha hasn't, because you're connected, so you still have the obligation. And he brings it down to different ideas as well. But this is what we're saying, we're all connected. So that Arizal, even though that Arizal is a tzaddik, he's perfect, he didn't do anything wrong. But being that there's a yid in the world that hasn't fulfilled the mitzvahs he's meant to fulfill, so then the Arizal himself is lacking. He calls himself Guf Echad Ad Kan Lashon, and this is until here's the language of the Tamei mitzvahs. So now the Talmud is going to explain what this means. So the explanation of this idea is the Adam Rishon has within inside of him the neshama of all encompassing the neshama that has all the neshamas within it. So like in the brackets, besides when Mashiach comes, those neshamas, and besides the ones that are going to come into this world after Tchias Mason. But every neshama, all of us, all have a part of Adam Rishon. We're all connected. We all come from the same neshama. We're all family. Shahaya Kail Kulam Mehen Nislim Reishay Mehem Bizrayim. And all of us are part of this sort of body. Some of us are from the head of the body, some of them are the feet, some of them are the arms. But we're all one body all together. Vashem Zeh Nikra Adam. And that's why Adam Rishon was called Adam. Why was his name Adam? One of the reasons because it's Adam El Elyon, because it comes from the language of similar to above. Adam El Elyon, I resemble the one above. You're bechinas klolus, because he is this encompassed general level, just like above. That's how it works. So too, that's what he was. He was similar to this idea, that, and just like we're seeing here, that his neshama includes within it all of us. You're bechinas klolus. Adam Leila Yud Tzviris bechinas partzuf. That it's drawn down from this level of Adam Leila, this higher Adam, higher man, which is comprised of the Yud Tzviris, which is called like a partzuf, like a face. The face comprised of all these different parts. So that's what of few organs. So that was him. Okay, and like it says, B'ni b'chayri Yisrael, B'ni, my son, my firstborn son Yisrael. So the son comes from the father. So too, Adam Rishon comes from Adam Elyon, and this is, I think it's in the level of Atzilus. Comes from there, and that's where we all come from. So v'hinei, behold, Devorah Leah explained elsewhere, be'inyan Adam Leila, and this idea of Adam Leila, shehu b'chinas shleima. So we're going to just say this last point, and it's the level of shleima. This Adam Le'elyon is connected with this level called ma. Shehu b'chinas shleima. Now ma, there's different ways, and we're going to explain this. Ma of tikkun. Now there's different ways of explaining of different names of God. You have ma, man. There's a lot, and each one, what do they represent? Different ways of saying Hashem's name. So you have Hashem's name. I did a little chart over here. Hopefully everyone can see it. So you have Hashem's name, the Yud K Vav K. The Yud, the Hey, the Vav, and the Hey. So that grammar, if you add it up, a Yud and a Hey and a Vav and a Hey, it adds up to 26. So that's Shem Havayim. Now, there's different ways of doing it. And there's one of the ways called lilui, that it's the field, meaning instead of saying Yud and just writing a little Yud, but you can say Yud. How do you spell out Yud? The letter Yud is Yud Vav Dalad. Yud Vav Dalad. You see here? Yud Vav Dalad. So then, if you take every letter of the Yud, the Hey, but you do it out in its fullness, so the Yud will be Yud Vav Dalad. The Hey is Hey Aleph. The Vav is Vav Aleph Vav. Yeah, and the last day is Hey Aleph. Now, if you add that up that way, that equals 45. This is Ma. Ma is Mem is 40 and Hey is 5. So that's the same word, but included with so much more. So what we're saying is, and we're going to discuss it more tomorrow, that Adam's neshama, where Adam comes from, which is ultimately the source of where we all come from and why we're all connected, is from Shema of Tikkun. Tikkun is like the world, the difference between the world of Tikkun and Toyu. You know, that's a whole thing in itself. But in simple, the world of Tikkun explains here is that it's divided into 3 levels, which you have like Chesed, Gevurah, and Tiferes. And you see in the chart of how they set up the spheres, you have these 3 lines. But essentially, Tikkun is a world that it was fixed. There was a lot of kalim, not a lot of lights, and basically had the ability to join together, and we all can receive from each other. The world of Toyu, on the other hand, which is a world which was chaotic, and it says over here in the moment that it's like one below the other, which means no one get along. And ultimately, if we're talking about Avos Yisrael, why do we have where we have this belief? Avos Yisrael is coming from this level of tikkun, of the ma of tikkun. That the ma comes into the tikkun, and ma, which is taking all that, not the simple short version, but all these different levels, bringing it all together and putting it into this level of tikkun, which ultimately is how we have Avos Yisrael. So just to end off, a takeaway message is when we look at another person, how do we look at them? As separate beings, totally separate from me, and therefore I judge them in any way, or look at them as part of me. We're all part and parcel of the same people. Like we say, this is in Tanya, all one Father, but we're all connected, we're all one. And therefore, and that's how you can have Avos Yisrael like you do in Mitzvah. When you see another person, if you see them as someone separate from you, there's a Nebach over here that needs tefillin, or that needs Shabbos candles. Whereas here what we're saying is, this is my brother, this is my sister, this is my family. And if someone in my family is lacking, I'm also lacking. So we should have atzlacha in looking at people in this way. We should have an amazing day. To be continued tomorrow, Mitzvah Hashem. Thank you everyone for joining.